Sound is an omnipresent force unless we are in a vacuum. It is all around us. Created by the vibrations of molecules in a medium, like air or water. Sound waves collide with our eardrums or our skulls, and our brains interpret those wavelengths. We don't usually perceive sound as a physical entity, but it undeniably affects our entire environment. Specific sound frequencies can manipulate particles, liquids, and other forms of matter into complex geometric patterns. Acoustic vibrations can also interact with our very DNA, influencing cellular development and perhaps even our states of consciousness. And what's even more interesting is that researchers have indeed discovered ways to use sound waves to lift objects off the Earth, counteracting gravity. What is cymatics? What do the geometric shapes produced by sound vibrations show us? And is sonic levitation really possible? We continue with part 2 of Secrets of Sound. Welcome! Sound, often seen simply as a form of energy, has complex geometric properties that link mathematics, physics, and music theory. The most fundamental representation of sound is the sine wave, a smooth, repetitive oscillation, which serves as a building block for more complex sounds. In music, each note corresponds to a sound wave of a certain frequency. However, when you hear a musical note being played on an instrument, you don't hear a sound of that frequency. Instead, you hear that frequency plus other frequencies that are multiples of that frequency. These are the so-called harmonics. These harmonics are integer multiples of the fundamental frequency. They contribute to the unique timbre or color of each instrument, and often reveal patterns and symmetries that resonate with the geometric principles of sound when they are drawn. You've probably heard of one particular frequency that is said to be universal and helps to better the string state, or the frequency of love. This is the frequency, 432 Hz. But what's more special about 432 Hz? In fact, this is one of the oldest frequencies ever used in tuning musical instruments. 432 Hz is mentioned quite often in the history of music. That's because this is the frequency that Verdi and other composers used to tune their instruments. Although composers liked using the frequency 432, in 1939 it was decided to make one standard for all of the frequencies of 440 Hz. This is a change about which there is much speculation. According to one of them, the move was intended to subconsciously manipulate the population, claiming that the use of the inharmonic frequency of 440 Hz stimulates aggressive side of the people. However, let us return to the number 432. Actually, it turns out that it is not a random number at all. 4 plus 3 equals 7. Plus 2, 9. And 9 is the number of source. An evolving spiral starting from nothing and pointing outwards towards all there is. 432. Hertz is the vibration advocated in the golden ratio principle, also known as the golden ratio. Golden ratio or divine proportion, and unifies the properties of light, time, space, matter, gravity and magnetism to biology, DNA code, and consciousness. Even Pythagoras established that the frequency 432 reflects the harmony of the heavenly bodies and is a kind of universal frequency. According to Pythagoras, the notes in a musical scale have specific mathematical relationships between them. By applying these ratios to musical instruments, such as string and wind instruments, Pythagoras discovered that he could produce beautiful, harmonious notes. This became the basis for Western music theory, giving us musical intervals such as thirds and fifths that we still use today. But he didn't stop there and proposed the idea that the universe itself is in a constant state of vibration. Nothing is at rest. Everything is moving. Everything is vibrating. I remind you of this for a reason. He has likened it to a lyre where every string, or in this case, each planet has its own unique frequency. Pythagoras called this cosmic concert the music of the spheres. Modern science confirms that each planet does emit its own unique frequency of radiation. If we can convert those frequencies into sound, each planet will indeed have its own song. So, could Pythagoras have discovered something? Is the universe humming its own tune, waiting for us to tune in to that particular frequency? The frequency of 432 Hz is harmonic with Schumann's resonance, which is about 8 Hz. So, tuning any instrument to a multiple of 432 would give a much sharper and harmonious sound. "432 also appears in Babylonian texts about the Great Flood. For them, 432,000 years elapsed between the moment of creation and the Great Flood. But they are not the only ancient civilization to associate this number with important events in their culture. The ancient Egyptians also used 432, encoding the number in the geometry of the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid may be a scale model of the northern hemisphere of the Earth in the scale of 1 in 43,200, corresponding exactly to the equatorial circumference and the distance from the equator to the pole. The number 43,200 appears repeatedly not only in connection with the measurements of the Great Pyramid, but also in relation to the Earth's axial precession. It is a number that is a multiple of 72. Corresponds to the number of years it takes the Earth to rotate on its axis at a rate of 1 degree every 72 years. 432,000 is also the number of syllables in the Hindu Rig Veda. Besides 432, another frequency which is considered one of the most mysterious and healing frequencies is 528 Hz. It is part of the infamous solfeggio frequencies, which are said to harmonize the human biofield, resonating with his bioenergetic centers. These unique sound frequencies are known to be an integral part of the musical schools of antiquity, as they were used by the ancient Egyptians, and then were adopted by Christianity at the time of the Pope Gregory the Great in the early 7th century AD, becoming the bass tones used in Gregorian chant. Solfeggios are a series of 6 electromagnetic musical tones with special frequencies. They penetrate deep into the conscious and subconscious mind, stimulating inner healing. Solfeggio tones are based on the numbers 3, 6, and 9. The interesting thing here is that Nikola Tesla also draws our attention to them by saying, "If you knew about the magnificence of these very numbers, 3, 6, and 9, you would have the key to decode the universe."
The old original solfeggio, ancient musical scale that had 6 notes, these are 9 now, it completes the circle. There's 9 notes that creates everything in the universe. The third note in that sequence is 528. Mi stands for Miragistorum in Latin, or miracles in English. So the miracle note of the universe is love.
All the ancient solfeggio frequencies have unique spiritual and psychological effects. But the frequency of 528 Hz is of particular physical and biological significance. The number 528 is found in the geometry of the intertwining double helix of our human DNA. In essence, Dr. Riff we mentioned in the first part relies precisely on the frequency of 528 Hz and its ability to repair DNA. Molecular genetic studies show that the 528 frequency can be used to repair defective DNA strands or to restore human DNA to original state. Research shows that it increases the absorption of ultraviolet light into DNA and can heal DNA by removing the impurities that cause certain diseases.
It's a frequency that occurs in the universe. It occurs in every living matter. It occurs in the humming of the bees. It occurs in the chlorophyll of the leaves. So it's something what is understood, the miracle DNA repair, or the so-called divine frequency.
We know that nothing is at rest. Everything moves, everything vibrates. When we vibrate normal water at a frequency of 528 Hz, it starts to vibrate synchronously and creates crystal-shaped high-energy water clusters, which form the protective matrix of DNA.
The universe is made of water. That means when you play 528 or sing, even better, in 528, that energy flows virtually universally, certainly across the planet.
After exposure to 528 Hz, the water, which is grouped in a six-sided or hexagonal form, is incredibly important to the structure and health of our DNA. It is believed that since our physical body is more than 70% water, with our blood consisting over 90% water, the formation of water molecules into a perfect hexagonal crystal helps to create a sense of relaxation almost instantly, thus reducing stress and anxiety. Of course that this is exactly right, and there are now a huge number of videos and music available on the internet for free. But very often people write these frequencies to attract attention and authenticity. What complex designs can sound create when it's visible through vibrational environments like water or sand? One impressive way to visualize the geometry of sound is through cymatics, the study of visible sound and vibrations. Cymatics is a field of study that visualizes the often invisible realm of sound, translating its vibrations into visible patterns. The term for this field in science is derived from the Greek word kuma, wave, to describe periodic effects, sounds, and vibrations. But how does this translation occur, and what can it reveal about the intrinsic properties of sound? The process usually involves sound waves passing through a medium, such as a thin layer of water, sand, or even metal particles, which is sensitive to vibration. When exposed to a sound frequency, these particles rearrange themselves into geometric shapes that directly correspond to the frequency and amplitude of the sound being reproduced.
With cymatic, it is literally the transplanting or the transmutation of accepted frequencies of sound into the tissue and structure of the human being.
Ordinary low-frequency sound can create a basic circular pattern in the environment. As the frequency increases, or if the sound is more complex, the patterns evolve into increasingly complex shapes, often forming symmetrical designs that resemble mandalas and fractals. One interesting aspect of cymatics is that these patterns share similarities with natural formations, such as the way sand dunes are shaped by the wind. or how riverbeds are carved out of flowing water. Could these similarities suggest that these same geometric principles underlying sound govern other natural phenomena? The pictures we see in cymatics are literally shaped into complex symmetrical arrangements. These patterns often resemble summed geometry, similar to Platonic solids. Summed geometry comes from Plato's idea that there is an invisible universal plane that underlies reality and gives form to matter through energy and vibration. How does that sound to you? Platonic solids include 5 key forms that fit into one sphere. The sphere, as we know it, represents the divine plane or hypersphere where our proton field and our choices are contained, which creates our world, illusionary though it may seem but truly experienced, where all external points are equidistant and emanate from a single source. Then, one can create, of course, different vibrations in this sphere, as many as one wishes, by drawing certain divisions. These divisions include the tetrahedron, hexahedron, octahedron, and an oxahedron, each representing the elements earth, fire, air, and water. There is also a 5th Platonic body, which is kept in great secrecy, until the dodahedron, representing the universal vital power, chi, prana, mana, the power which creates. In cymatics, certain frequencies tend to produce these Platonic bodies and various iterations of this sacred geometry on the surface of the plane. But could this be evidence that the sacred geometry is at the same vibration of the universe? Cymatics shows us practically how sound waves rearrange matter. But if sound can affect particles, sand or salt, and move them into a particular shape, can it then also be used to move larger objects? I quote, 122nd page, Encyclopedia, Cogitality, all that is. Use source book 1. Cymatics is the science, the closing sound, the relationship between frequencies and form. So the symbols in an alphabet can be formed, created through a similar pattern. The alphabet could then signify a narrative, a story, information about extremely important patterns of creation and manifestation of all that is. Perhaps the most profound and comprehensive message and theory about the origin of the world, of planet Earth, is given in the Glagolitic alphabet. Its very name translated means the signs that speak. Its recognition and interpretation open the doors to an immense amount of knowledge, in-depth analysis, which, through this symbolic alphabet, have been practically known rather than theoretically. This is because, without giving names to the energies themselves, the whole process of movement, of turning nothing into something, is traced, the duality of the world, and that the vital energy contained in each is that which creates the world. It shows how there is no death, and everything moves in cycles, leaving and returning to rest. Shows that human life is not just one cycle, but a whole era, where opposites always exist, and one flows into the other. It is this striving to walk the path of this not knowing that makes us the complete perfection. Thus, the Glagolitic, without pretending to be anything special, appears as a Bible of creation and its cycles, wisdom of the signs who speak. Is it possible that it was through sound that our ancient ancestors moved the giant stone blocks to create megalithic sanctuaries? All over the world, the remains of ancient civilizations stand as giant testaments to the ingenuity of our ancestors. In Baalbek, Lebanon, The centuries-old Temple of Jupiter contained 3 giant monolithic stones, each weighing about 1,000 tons. Similarly impressive is Pumapunku in Bolivia, where intricately carved stone blocks, each weighing about 100 tons, are scattered over a vast plateau. Currently, many people believe that acoustic levitation was one of the techniques used by societies such as the ancient Egyptians to build monumental structures like the pyramids. However, most scientists still do not accept the possibility of levitation by sound. This connection, in the 1970s, British science fiction writer Arthur Clarke formulated 3 laws to explore the boundaries between science and science fiction. The third law stating that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Clarke suggests that technology, when sufficiently advanced, will seem impossible to those who do not understand it. How many times has this happened since? This concept becomes particularly intriguing when the acoustic properties of the Great Pyramid of Giza are explored, as it is known, to amplify sounds at certain frequencies. This suggests that the ancient Egyptians were well versed in the science of acoustics and may even have used it for effects that we might find magical, such as levitation. Is it possible that the pyramids were built using a method similar to acoustic levitation? To understand how challenging it is to move such massive objects, let's look at the capabilities of our modern machines. A modern loader cat, a type of heavy-duty machine, has the power to lift a stone weighing up to 22 tons. It may even be able to drag a stone weighing up to 40 tons along the ground. But if we were faced with moving a stone weighing 50 tons or more, our modern machinery would have to escalate considerably. We'd have to deploy a whole arsenal of specialized equipment, including large cranes, hydraulic jacks, and sturdy steel beams. And yet, how did the ancients move these huge stone blocks without all this available? Some of these incredible stone blocks are nothing we can face today with all our technology. Many accounts of acoustic levitation come from travelers in the Far East who claim to have met mystics or ascetics, capable of levitating objects sometimes with the aid of sound. One remarkable account comes from a medical practitioner named Dr. Gerald, who claims to have witnessed this phenomenon firsthand during his stay in an isolated Tibetan community. Through Bruwanted Doctor. In 1939, Dr. Gerald was summoned to the Tibetan region to provide medical care for a revered Buddhist monk stricken with an unidentified illness. After gaining the trust of the monastic community, he was invited to witness a demonstration of sonic levitation. As a sign of gratitude, the monks took him to a remote clearing, surrounded by towering cliffs. In the center lay a massive stone slab, situated about 250 yards from one of the cliffs. The monks collected 19 musical instruments, 13 drums, and 6 trumpets. A semicircle surrounded the stone. When they began a symphony of drums and trumpets, a choir of monks began to sing, gradually increasing the tempo. Although the first 4 minutes yielded no result, the stone began to tremble and finally flew. As the crescendo reached its peak, it rose upwards, finally settling on top of a cliff, 250 meters above its original position. Dr. Jarrow captured this phenomenon on film, but unfortunately the footage has since been confiscated and classified. An absolute classic. While these supposed films have never surfaced, the drawings created by Dr. Jarrow have survived to this day. But this is not the only example of acoustic levitation. Coral Castle in Florida, for example, Built by Edvard Litskaunen between an unspecified year, is an enigmatic labyrinthine stone fortress. It consists with close to 1,000 tons of quarried rock, the entire structure carved, assembled, and lifted into place by Litskaunen himself. How did he manage to build this? No one knows, but many speculate that acoustic levitation may have played a key role in this case as well. Litskaunen worked in near total secrecy, forbidding visitors and eaters from observing his work in progress. However, working largely under the cover of darkness, he managed to mine it himself, transported and assembled an astonishing 1,000 tons of rock to build walls, towers, and various other architectural wonders. One obelisk he erected is said to weigh 28 tons, while the heaviest stone on the premises is estimated at a staggering 35 tons. To put this in perspective, some of these stones are twice as heavy as the largest blocks used in the Great Pyramid of Giza. And he accomplished all of this without anyone else's help, without the use of any heavy machinery. There were never any witnesses to observe Litskaunen's methods to move the colossal stones, although rumors persist. Some even claim that a group of eavesdropping teenagers saw him levitate the massive blocks as if they were light, like balloons. Litskaunen says, "I uncovered the mysteries of the pyramids by understanding how the ancients in places like Peru, the Yucatan, and Asia lifted heavy stones, using only rudimentary tools." He claimed that through his connections with the Freemasons, he had stumbled upon a secret knowledge that helped him manipulate the forces of gravity. If Litskaunen had indeed discovered the ancient secrets of levitation, he took them with him to the grave. Today's scientific innovations are not used to lift bulky or heavy objects. 21st century scientists are not sure if such a thing is even possible on such a large scale, which is slightly paradoxical. Modern experiments with acoustic or sonic levitation are frequent and ongoing, and several scientists have succeeded in levitating and moving microscopic particles and liquid droplets using sound waves. In two such trials, lightweight polystyrene balls larger than the lifting wavelengths were successfully levitated, marking a significant advance in the control of focused sound pressure. In a 2016 test conducted by a team of researchers, UK and Brazil, a full polystyrene ball was lifted a few centimeters off the ground and held there while the sound waves lasted. Just 1 year later, in January, in an opportunity, researchers at the University of Bristol in England presented a prototype of a portable tugboat, a device capable of levitating small objects using only sound waves. This handheld apparatus, equipped with a set of speakers, allows its user to focus sound waves on lightweight materials, thus effectively counteracting the force of gravity and lifting the object into the air. Well, and if there are already scientific experiments, although it is still in miniature scale, then lifting huge blocks of stone and manipulating matter doesn't seem so impossible. Although today's technology is still in its infancy and is limited to lifting only small light objects, it is worth to consider whether ancient civilizations reached a level where they could manipulate this principle on a much larger scale. Clearly, they did know a lot more about the mysteries of sound and its universe-building role. And to us, they first had to make these discoveries, one way or another. What do you think? What does the voice of silence sound like? What is the sound of the nothingness? And how of nothing, that was at rest, became something? It became a whole visible world, energy, frequencies, vibrations, and last but not least, our choice. I bow before you and thank you for being with us. Sound is something very special. The sound is something very strong. Is everywhere. We don't give it the attention and the importance that it has. It's no coincidence that many ancient peoples and cultures throughout the ages to this day observe these sacred beliefs and these rituals associated with the different vibrations, the different instruments that they use. Some to summon the spirits of their ancestors, others to connect with the cosmos, to receive information, others to see their deceased relatives, their relatives. But in the end, it all comes down to the same connection, and that is, it's all energy. Everything is vibration, everything is frequency. And the more we adapt, which is strange, to this way of being alive, but I would add to this natural way, to the rhythm of things. The rhythm is everywhere. One of the principles of Hermes. Well, the more natural and easy things will happen to us in life, people. This doesn't mean to sink now in 2 years to about the mysteries of sound. No. It means to use these perspectives and models and research as reference points, as something we can stand on. Something to challenge our minds to keep searching, to keep going, knowing that the exploration is indeed endless, but to do it with our own frequency, our own sound, our own vortex, that contributes to the whole thing, not trying to be someone else. Stepping into someone else's shoes by trying different things that we know might not be what we're best at. Let's test it. Let's do it so we can feel what the other person feels across from us. But basically to explore our own capabilities, to grow, and to give those capabilities to the world. I deeply believe that this is one of the big reasons to be here and to be here at this time. Because big changes are coming, and we're going to go through them. Thank you, and I will see you in a moment.